Well, hello everybody, and welcome so much to the first GFSI webinar of 2021. To say that we were overwhelmed by the number of you who have committed to joining us today, to taking time out of your busy days to come and listen to essentially what is us talking for the best part of an hour is really quite overwhelming. So before we start, we just wanted to say thank you so much for doing that, and we hope very much that we don't disappoint. So before we dive into the agenda and the detail, I just have a couple of housekeeping things to share with you. Obviously, in the event of a fire, you will need. Oh no, sorry, we're not in the real world, are we? But seriously, if you want to share on your social media channels while we're talking today and while you're engaging with us, please do. We have a hashtag which is hashtag Ask GFSI. So please use that. We have another hashtag for our annual conference, which is hashtag GFSI 21. So if you're excited to hear about the conference, please use that one too. So just to start with the format for today, I'm going to start by setting the scene. I'm going to introduce my colleagues to you and myself indeed in a moment, and then we are going to move through some updates for you around our initiative, the Race to the Top, and we are going to conclude at the end with a small update on our conference, and then throw the floor open to you to ask us some questions, which you can post in the chat box, and we will certainly receive them. So I am Erica Sheward. I have the absolute privilege and pleasure to be the director of GFSI. I am not the clever one out of the three of us. My two colleagues are the proper clever ones. I am simply here, as I say often, to do all of the conducting. I am the one out the front doing all of the conducting. But it's very nice to meet you all, and thank you again for taking the time. So I'm going to assume a lot actually initially in terms of setting the context for what we're here to talk about today. So I'm going to assume that those of you who have joined us are part of our community and know who we are and essentially what we do. And I'm also going to assume that you may know something about our initiative called the Race to the Top. But I'm not going to over assume, so I'm just going to track back a little bit to start with giving some context as to exactly what the Race to the Top is all about. So I joined GFSI in the autumn of 2019 at a time when GFSI was finding itself in a place, like a lot of organisations as they grow and mature, where some trust and confidence in the outcomes that GFSI is here to deliver was being eroded, and we were faced with a very real challenge from our board members, from our committed and dedicated GFSI board members who are members of the CGF, our mothership, who are companies that are the leading lights in food and beverage around the world. And we were faced with some challenge from them about the challenge around trust and confidence in GFSI. So we were tasked as a team with our closest stakeholders to go away and shape a suite of initiatives that would deliver at pace some evidential improvements in trust and confidence in GFSI. And when I say trust and confidence, I don't just mean the outcome of the audits, because that is just one very important but just one part of the GFSI world. So it's also important that people feel that we are open and transparent as an organisation, that we are accessible as an organisation, and that we are here to support the food industry with what it is that we do. And we can't do that unless people join us and work with us to that end. So apart from the obvious things, some of the other things that we've been working hard as a team to do is create an environment whereby we are much more open and transparent about what it is that we're thinking, that we are sharing those thoughts with our community, and that we are asking you to do a lot more perhaps than you would be normally used to. So we are asking you what you think, we are asking you to take the time and trouble to tell us what you think, and we are also asking you to consult with us and formalize your responses through that process. And we are shaping a whole new era around how it is that GFSI as an organization actually operates, and we're very happy to be in a place where that is an opportunity for us. So that's the context. We are here as a not-for-profit organisation. We don't have any commercial interests. Our job is to deliver our mission, which is safe food for consumers everywhere. And everything that we do has to align with that mission. And that is the litmus test against how we decide what it is that we do and where we take our strategy. We have 3 strategic priorities, some of which are very well known to our community. Our harmonisation and benchmarking work is front and centre of us delivering our agenda around food safety certification. And also we have 2 other strategic priorities, which some of you will be very familiar with, depending on where you are in the world and in our community, and others less so. So we have a strategic priority which is about engaging in public-private partnerships. You're going to hear from Anne today, who leads these work streams about our public-private partnership work, and that is very much embedded in a desire to enable regulators to use the GFSI outputs, what it is that we do and the contribution that we make to the food safety world, to help them prioritise their resources and to enable them to understand how it is that business rolls. And in addition to that, we have another work stream which is around capability building in food safety. So this idea that we are here for the greater good. Our job is not just about supporting businesses that want to go on a journey towards certification, although that is very important to us, obviously. We want to support every business that feels that has a dearth of capability in the food safety space. So our Global Markets programme has been front and centre of our capability building work, but as we move forward we will be shaping new initiatives as part of the Race to the Top to enable us to support businesses more in improvements and advancements in their food safety management systems. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Marie-Claude, who is going to talk to you about the progress that we are making on the Race to the Top. The Race to the Top is the term that we have used to coin our initiative of improvement in trust and confidence, and we launched a consultation around 4 initial features of the Race to the Top that have a laser focus on our benchmarking and harmonisation work. And Marie-Claude is now going to give you an update on where we are with that, to thank those of you who have helped us so far, and to share with you what it is that comes next. So without further ado, Marie-Claude, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erika. So it would be fair to say that most of you will have heard about the 4 features that we launched back in Seattle nearly a year ago, which constituted the first wave of the Race to the Top. A year on, we've made significant progress. I'm delighted that to be able to describe those to you and let you know what will come in the next few months up to the GFSI conference at the end of March. So in order of features, the first feature, which focused on looking at auditor competency in a way that GFSI could actually help with our current framework of activities, and create a set of benchmarking requirements for food safety auditor training and continuing professional development. We had a succession of a couple of working groups of experts looking at this for a year. This is one of the first features really got going with, and we will be able to put the first version of the benchmarking requirements up for consultation to your scrutiny in line with the GFSI conference. So at the end of March is our objective. It is very important for us that we submit this document to public consultation to ensure that we get a broad feedback and strengthen the document. So that's for the first feature. The second feature is one that was looking at how GFSI oversees certification program owners once they are recognized. So as many of you will know, we carry out annual monitoring activities on recognized certification program owners to ensure that they are continuously aligning to the benchmarking requirements. And this program is really driven from the GFSI office. We beat the rhythm on a drum, and there's set moments in time during the year where we would ask the CPO to provide us information that would allow us to establish their level of alignment. And we want to change that dynamic to give the CPO more responsibility to manage their own continuous monitoring and alignment, and also demonstrate that their performance is actually improving year on year, so that we enter that spirit of race to the top as opposed to alignment to the lowest common denominator. The first piece of work that we have completed now is identifying a set of KPIs that will allow us to measure certification program owners on a more regular basis than through the 3 touch points that we traditionally had throughout the year. It will also allow us to report transparently to each of the CPO where they stand against those KPIs and illustrate very simply where we believe improvements may be required and have open conversation with them about it. The third feature was actually looking at how certification bodies are monitored and overseen in the certification ecosystem. At GFSI, we have no oversight of the certification bodies. However, the quality of the work those organizations deliver is absolutely crucial to the success of third-party certification and GFSI in turn. Now, certification bodies are monitored very regularly and repeatedly by accreditation bodies on one hand and certification program owner on the other hand. And GFSI committed a year ago to foster conversations and exchange between accreditation bodies and CPOs on the performance of certification bodies, so that risk assessment determining the level of monitoring required on certification body is informed by a broader set of information. This is a piece of work that I'm carrying out in partnership with the International Accreditation Forum. It sits very much in their world since they stand over accreditation. And we've done a great piece of work that is concluding actually in the coming weeks, identifying again key performance indicators for certification bodies that both accreditation bodies and certification program owners will be able to report into, so that this information can be shared within that community in a structured and harmonized manner and allow the accreditation bodies and the certification program owners to refine their risk assessments on CB monitoring. When those KPIs will have gone through the IEF internal governance and our own internal governance with our GFSI board, we will submit those for consultation, because we want, again, a broad involvement in that piece of work. It's very important that people feel confident that we are improving the oversight on that piece of the puzzle that is the certification bodies. And the fourth feature was the establishment of a certification platforms. So it's been in conversations for a little while in GFSI that although we stand over all certification program owners, we actually have no data, and certainly no database of all GFSI recognized certificates. That information is held at each of the CPOs for most cases, and at each of the certification bodies who issue certificates. It's a recognized need from our stakeholders, though, to have this one-stop shop where they can go to check in a reliable manner if a site is certified against a GFSI recognized program or not, and if their certificate is still valid. This is very much in line with increasing concerns from the certification world in general that fraud on certificate has been on the increase. It's becoming easier and easier with the development of software to create something that looks very much like a certificate from a GFSI recognized program or against an ISO standard, but actually isn't. And so we are very concerned that this could create misleading situations for the industry and actually affect ultimately the trust people may put in third-party certification. So for us, it's not only a question of bringing convenience to our stakeholders, but it is also crucially making sure that we maintain trust in the third-party certification ecosystem. The technology is not that complicated because the information is out there. We just need to go and collect it. The importance for us was to choose the right partner, a process that we have run over the past 10 months through a rigorous request for proposal and tendering process, and we are finalizing in the coming 3 weeks, so that we should be able to have a system that we can demonstrate at the conference again. So as you gather from all of this, the conference is a significant milestone in the GFSI life, and that comes to no surprise to us. And it's important for us that we can come to you at this event with an update on these, and actually for all of them, a delivery on the promise we made back in Seattle a year ago. I'm just going to check. I think that is it for me. So Erica, I will hand over back to you if I may.
Thank you, Marie-Claude. Thank you very much indeed. So as you've heard from Marie-Claude, we have been quite busy in a year when we've all been busier than we could ever have predicted that we would be. And what a strange time it has been. But out of every challenge, I believe, comes opportunity. And I think my personal reflection on 2020 and where GFSI found itself was we were provided with a unique opportunity to focus on the huge projects that we've been engaged in working in, and we also were provided, because we weren't able to go anywhere, we normally travel a fair bit around our community, but we weren't ever able to travel anywhere, and that provided us with some real dedicated, committed time to work together to shape these projects and to spend some time consulting and shaping you know, all sorts of work around our stakeholders and the community that we serve. So, okay, so you've heard some updates. I see some questions are coming in. There's some super questions, so we're going to make sure we've got plenty of time at the end to answer them. In the spirit of openness and transparency as well, I just want to say, because I might forget, and while it's in my middle-aged brain, I usually like to say it, that we are open for business. We are open to hear from you. We can't manage everything on an individual basis, but we have a very easy mechanism through our website, GFSI Info. I can give you my personal assurance that every inquiry that comes through that mailbox, I do see. I don't answer them, but I do see them. So that is the easiest way to get hold of us if you don't have our personal email addresses. And indeed, if you wish to have them, you are very welcome to have them, so you can connect with us directly and tell us what you think. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to my colleague Anne. As I said earlier, Anne leads our work around public-private partnerships. So this is the very, very business critical area of our work where we connect not just ourselves and our membership, but also with regulators, but also the regulators themselves. So Anne has done a tremendous job over the past few years of curating the biggest global network of food safety regulators, so regulatory experts in food safety, to bring them to the GFSI community and to work progressively with them around key areas of mutual interest. And Anne is going to talk to you about what those areas, those themes are. In terms of how the work that we do, our government to business work fits into the overall project, which is the Race to the Top. Up until this year, we only had the opportunity to meet with our regulatory community annually at our conference. And whilst that's wonderful and we throw a great party and people love to come to it, it doesn't enable us to progress our work at the pace that we would wish to. And sometimes, we year on year, we don't seem to be achieving much. So we made a commitment in 2020 to broaden the terms of reference for the G2B, and we are driving now a continuous dialogue with our regulatory community shaped around the three areas of work that Anne is going to talk to you about. So it's not just a one-off event. The one-off event is the culmination now of a whole year-long suite of work, and we are exceptionally proud of this particular part of the Race to the Top in terms of driving trust and confidence in the regulatory community and what it is that we do. So I'm going to hand over to Anne, who's going to talk you through the detail of the work. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, everyone. Happy to see all of you. So before I start with what are the work streams of the G2B this year, just to give you a bit of governance on how we work with those regulators and a bit of history for that. 5 years ago, we created this government to business platform to have better understanding of each other, trying to strengthen public-private partnership between GFSI and regulators. And also not only regulators, but what we call IGOs, so international governmental organizations such as the World Bank, international standard setting bodies such as Codex, and many others like OIE and IPPC. And it was an initiative based on Canada Food Inspection Agency, who came to us and wanted to create a momentum among their peers, regulators, and GFSI to have a one-day meeting. With time, we felt there was a need to completely structure this model, and now we have a G2B organizing committee made of regulators and IGOs who have stepped in and who applied to be part of this organizing committee. And last summer, we made a call for participation among all the regulatory community, and 12 of them responded from all over the world. So we have 12 regulatory agencies from Latin America, Africa, Asia, and we also have World Bank and Codex representative inside this G2B organizing committee. And we work together with the GFSI board to identify the priorities, what are the common interests, and where we want to move the agenda forward all together. So this organizing committee stepped in September, last September, and we quite quickly identified 3 work streams that are occupying us since last September. Which are completely linked to the Race to the Top. So the first 2, linked to the phase 1 of the Race to the Top, are the use of information and communication technologies in third-party audits and in inspections and activities linked to inspections. So the regulatory side of the inspections. And we are looking at ways to identify common trends, common challenges, and to seek alignment on how regulators today are using new technologies to perform inspection activities, whether it's with the companies they oversee as inspectors, or how do they use new technologies among each others as a trade perspective. So a lot of agencies, exporting agencies, are actually inspecting sites from other countries before they do import products, and that's also part of the scope. So why we are doing that? Because we want to make sure that there is an alignment in the future on that aspect of the race to the top and of the COVID response, to make sure we're all aligned and we learn the same lessons. So during the formal meeting of the G2B, there will be a dedicated seminar in March where the GFSI board and the regulators that have been invited will give the outcomes of what have been the collecting phase of the good practices on both sides. So we will be having some members of the GFSI community who have put some evidence after the call of evidence from the ICT call for evidence, who will speak about how they are using new technologies. And that will be the same for the side of the regulators, and we'll have many jurisdictions actually who stepped in to actually present what are their practices today and the next steps and what they have learned right now. So that's the first one. The second one actually is about data sharing and the online database that Marie-Claude raised as one of the features of the race to the top. We want to see with the regulators through a pilot how this database could be used in the future by some jurisdiction to actually have better risk-based approach of and a better allocation of their resources as inspections based on the information that they could have and the trust that they could have on a certificate of GFSI. So we have been engaged with several of them since the autumn of last year to test the idea and look at what could be the kind of information that could be part of this database and how they would welcome the use of this database and to stress test this project with us and to see how we could build the IT infrastructure that could be better fit for purpose for them. That's the second one. And the last work stream that we have been engaging with since last October is a discussion with, so not only jurisdiction, but also capacity building organizations from the public side, like the World Bank and representative from Codex as well, and regional economic cooperation organizations such as AICA in Latin America, trade organization like COMESA in Africa, is about what are the needs of regulatory agency in terms of capacity building, and how in the framework of looking at how we can make the global markets program better, what could be areas to develop to build further public-private projects to strengthen capacities all over the world in small and medium enterprise, and also in what we call the MISMEs. So it's a very weird acronym, which is the micro and small and medium enterprise. And so we are looking at what are the challenges and how in the GFSI ecosystem that those challenges could be maybe answered better, and we could have a program that fits better for them and for us to work together again to strengthen public-private collaboration. And during the seminar on that specific topic that will take place in March, we'll hear some of those stakeholders actually telling us what do we need. And they will also, of course, be participating into the public consultation of the Global Markets Program that we'll be launching quite soon. That's, in a nutshell, what we are doing with the government to business meeting, and how that government to business meeting is completely linked to the RTT agenda and GFSI strategic framework.
Okay, Anne, thank you very much. And I'm really proud to be able to share that update, particularly with everybody, because I know that this is an area of our work that just quietly goes on behind the scenes. Not so quietly, actually, because the B, obviously, in the G2B is comprised largely of our GFSI board members and their businesses, and they provide the B of the G2B, which is a tremendous amount of work for them, but they, you know, they really do see the value in it, and this is really valuable for our entire community. So if any of your regulatory affairs colleagues are interested in these work streams, if this is stuff that you feel not you necessarily in perhaps your technical roles, but others within your companies and within your teams, please do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So let's move on then with our final item before we reach the conference, which is the progress that we are making linked very nicely, as you will see, to the G2B agenda. And this is our product, the Global Markets Programme. It was designed and implemented nearly 10 years ago with the very noble intent of supporting companies, small companies, or companies in developing regions where food safety management infrastructure wasn't quite so advanced, in enabling them to understand what a journey from where they were to certification could mean for them. And it's been a tremendous feather in the GFSI cap. It's been driven by many of our smartest and most dynamic board members who've really embraced it as their own and drove it forward. But like everything that comes of a certain age, there is a necessity and a time to evaluate and reflect. And 2020 certainly gave us that opportunity. And we launched on the back of some very powerful feedback that we received about the global markets through our Race to the Top consultation. We received some very powerful feedback about challenges that our stakeholders felt that they were experiencing with the Global Markets Programme. So in response to that, we issued a survey, quite an extensive survey of our global markets stakeholders in September. We received a tremendous response. Again, thanks to our community for responding to us. It's always humbling and overwhelming to receive so many amazing thoughts and ideas. It was a very rigid, structured survey because we wanted to aggregate the data in a way that we could receive and extrapolate a coherent message. And the message we heard loud and clear was it was definitely time for the Global Markets Programme to change, and that we have some significant challenges with it across a number of areas of work. So we are just about to continue now with that work. We've evaluated the survey data, and within the next week or so, we will be publishing a stakeholder consultation shaped very much around what it was that people said, and we will be asking our community to give us some very robust suggestions as to what it is that we should do around these critical areas that have been of challenge that have been raised. We're going to launch that with some further comms. We're going to invite people to tell us what they think, and we're really keen to get to a place where we can then take the outcomes of that consultations and then come back with some ideas about what we do next. Some of the criticism we receive at GFSI is that we don't ever do anything quickly enough, and whilst I accept that challenge, I'm not sure that we should. I think when GFSI makes a move, we have to respect the fact that what we do impacts lots and lots of individuals and businesses and stakeholders, and doing things quickly and without the necessary consideration of the impact of our work it doesn't feel right to me. And I think that's never more true of the race to the top. We've got to, it's called a race. We've got to get somewhere at pace, but there's getting somewhere on your own at pace, and there's taking your community with you. And we have chosen to take our community with us. And the same is true of the Global Markets Programme. We want to make the right move, not necessarily a quick move. So that's where we are with global markets, and thank you again already for everything you've done, but there's going to be more we're going to be asking you to do. So, Anne, I don't know if you've got anything further you'd like to say about global markets before I move on to the conference, and then obviously the super questions I can see whizzing in on the chat box.
Let me give you some intro about what is going to be the public consultation about in a bit more details. We build it in 6 sections that are based on the outcomes of the survey that Erica talked about. And we'll be doing a blog post and a podcast actually to explain how you can find the public consultation on our website and how you can answer it and what is the content of it so that you can be prepared. But in a nutshell, there will be an entire sections dedicated to what do you want to be the new basis for the Global Markets Programme? What is the need for change for the Global Markets Programme? There will be another section, how do we differentiate the Global Markets Programme from the GFSI recognized certification? And how do we make sure this is clear for everyone? Because one of the outcomes of the survey is really what are the outcomes and the purpose of the program versus the GFSI certification. There will also be a discussion on the technical aspects of the Global Markets Programme linked to the scopes of the Global Markets Programme and what could be the new scopes and should we align the scopes with the benchmarking requirement scopes and all that discussion. There will also be discussion around the governance and how do we shape the governance of the program. Another section will be around the efficacy and the integrity of the program and how do we ensure we're again building trust around the program and the certification through the new version of the program. And the last question also will be about how do we work better and we clarify the roles and define the roles between GFSI and the global markets delivery partners. And that's the beauty of working with a British director. She comes with beautiful word that as a French person I would have never find, and I love it. So the global markets delivery partners, and so that will be a section of the public consultation. So stay tuned. In a few days, at the end of the month, you will be asked to work. So thank you very much, Erica.
Thanks, Anne. I'm not sure it's my Britishness that conjures up those types of words. I think it's probably too many years at the British government actually that conjures those words up. But thank you very much. Okay, so before we segue into questions, please keep the questions coming. We're going to try and answer all of them, and if we don't, our ambition will be that we find out who you are and answer them directly with you. I just wanted to take a few final minutes before we hand over to questions to talk about our conference. I am someone actually who, despite my background in food safety, had never been to the GFSI conference until last year in Seattle, and just in the nick of time before the world changed forever, we managed to meet in Seattle, and I completely understood for the first time since I arrived at GFSI what the power of that event, driven entirely, supported entirely by the GFSI community, really is. It remains the go-to event in the food safety world, and it was just unbelievable to see the amount of business that was being done, the amount of friends that were coming together, the amount of fun that was being had, the amount of challenges that people were giving each other in that forum and in that space. fast forward a year and we have taken the inevitable decision that the GFSI conference will go virtual this year. This is a huge challenge for everybody who takes what is fundamentally a successful event because of the power of human interaction and the power of people coming together, physically coming together. So we face a huge challenge in all of the wonderfulness that is the GFSI conference in how we shape that and try and give visitors to the conference the same experience. It won't be the same, it'll be different, but we have every expectation it will still be incredible. It must be valuable to everybody who comes, so we're thinking really carefully about the value of the conference. And just reflecting on my challenges and opportunities mantra, here is a real opportunity we feel, and this is where we need your help, for people who've never come to the GFSI conference, people like me who have never been able to get there before because of the distance, because of the time, the cost, the commitment of time, who may be people within organizations that would really benefit from the incredible sessions that we're going to be delivering, who would come, who could learn something. And we really want to use this virtual event as an opportunity to reach stakeholders that have never been able to come to the GFSI conference before. And so we're asking your help in connecting us with those individuals, people you may know in your networks, in your organizations, people, site-centric people that are actually working at the sharp end of certified sites. That would be a really cool place for us to be. And so we are seeing that as the real opportunity, over and above the fact that we will have a conference. It will deliver everything it usually delivers and perhaps more, and we're going to have a bit of fun, I sense, along the way. I am the biggest Luddite at the CGF. I am the one that always presses buttons and says, help, it's not working, it's not working. So the challenge around having an avatar and working all of that is just a really incredible opportunity. So as you can tell, we are really excited to bring to you the conference. It will be happening, it's a 3-day event. It happens on the 23rd to the 25th of March, obviously in the virtual world. We opened up registrations for the conference last week. Please have a look at that, and if you've got any questions, let us know. And we, in the interests of our mantra again around transparency and openness and connectedness with our stakeholders, we have bravely running sessions on the 3rd day where pretty much you can come and ask GFSI anything you want to ask us. So we're stepping into that space alongside some of our board members who are also very keen to participate alongside us in that event. So it's hashtag GFSI21. I sound like a salesperson now, and I'm not a salesperson, but please don't miss the conference. You can't afford to miss the conference. If you normally come to the conference, you normally support the conference, you really can't afford to miss it. So please make sure that you find the time if you can, and we would love to see you. So enough about the conference. I'm just going to also just raise a point around this webinar. We had nearly 500 registrations. We have a fair number of hundreds of you with us today, but plenty that couldn't make it. We will be putting the recording on our YouTube channel, so we'll be making it clear to everybody that if they want to revisit it, that they can on YouTube. So without further ado, we will hand over now to Q&A. So I think I'm in the seat for asking the questions, and I'm going to pop them to my very clever colleagues. And where I feel that I could answer one myself, I might have a go. But let me start. I think first come, first serve should be the rule of the game. Ladies, gentlemen, all of you out there, if you've got any more questions, please just keep them coming. We're here. We're at your disposal. Make the most of us while we're here. So the first one is a really great question. So this question is, can you provide an update on the remote auditing research conducted by the independent panel? With COVID ongoing and in many areas worse, we are being asked about this solution for GFSI audits constantly. Thank you. Well, thank you for that question. That's a brilliant question. I'm sure many people on the webinar would like to hear the answer to that one. So I'm going to hand that one over to Marie-Claude.
Well, thank you. I kind of knew that would be coming to me, so no surprises there. Very good question. the expert panel handed over their academic review to us at the beginning of January, and we are submitting this for our internal governance process to our technical committee and ultimately our board. It was a very interesting exercise, the first time that GFSI convened a group of made up exclusively of academic, with a very simple question in its term, not in its answer. What evidence is available out there to sustain the use of ICT during food safety audits? Of course, when you get a bunch of academics in a room and ask them a simple question, you get an 80-page report, which is pretty much what I got back. But some very, very interesting conclusions, both for the short term in terms of available evidence, but also encouragement to continue to gather evidence as remote assessment and remote auditings are continuing to be practiced actually on the ground, and we know that. And then some more long-term reflections on the role of technologies in audits for the future. And if I may, Erica, I'll link this to one of the questions that came up much later around working with CCP equipment to gather, equipment provider to gather data on monitoring of CCPs. So this is something that we are not considering at the moment, at least within the certificate platform project, because our position is to focus on the certificate information and solely the certificate information. However, there's a sense within the certification community that technology is going to change dramatically how we audit, and that more and more technology allows us to automatically and systematically monitor information coming out of factories, not only the audit information, but every day, if you want, the hourly checks that you did on your metal detector, or the microbial and chemical results from your product sampling, and gather that at a level of an amount of information that is too big for the human brain to cope with, but actually where AI can help. And all of this will actually potentially change and enhance the role of audits. So immediately we're not working on that topic, but I can see how GFSI will want to look at this because it will affect the future of audit.
Okay, thank you. And I think for the person that asked that question, if you're not clear about the mitigating measures that GFSI has taken, notwithstanding the fact we currently don't recognise fully remote audits, but if you are unclear about what we have done to support the challenges that you very rightly raise, please do let us know. I think we're rapidly coming to the conclusion that it's always good to hear directly from us what it is that we've done, rather than us lazily relying on third parties to tell our story for us. Whilst that's valuable, it's never quite as effective as us saying, this is what we've done, give us your context, what's your challenge, we can help. So please, I would advocate, if anybody's got the same challenge in that vein, please just come reach out, connect with us, and we will help with your specific problem. So thank you, great question. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next one now, which is your certification platform based on blockchain technology? Marie-Claude, I'm sorry, I think that's one for you as well.
Yes, it is. No, we didn't specify the technology we wanted to be suggested. I'm not an IT expert, so I just explained the functionalities I needed from the system, and providers came up with IT solutions to satisfy those needs. It just so happens that none of them were blockchain based, basically. So it's not necessarily a judgment of the opportunity blockchain represents, it's just that we were not offered a blockchain based solution.
Okay, simple, quick answer to that one. Yeah. Okay, so the next one here is Interested in the comment about certificate fraud. How are you measuring these certificates and what is the level of growth? Any hotspots in terms of geography? Marie-Claude, sorry, one for you.
So how we, yeah, I guess it's one for me again. That's a very good question. We're not systematically measuring it, unfortunately. We've had ad hoc reports from members who showed us example or who said we're having problems, we're receiving more and more fraudulent reports or certificates. So because we don't have a systematic analysis, I'll won't name and shame countries or regions because that would be unfair, really. There is a piece of work going on at the IEF level. There's a task force actually looking at this at the same time where food fraud is prominent and how we can prevent it. This is something that we haven't felt the need to monitor systematically at this stage.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next one. So ultimately, the race to the top features have been identified through consultation as being topics the industry has deemed to be important to progress food safety. How can the industry therefore support GFSI in delivery of these important initiatives so that we are all successful? So I'm going to have a go at this one. So thank you, and thank you for what I think was an offer of support. We have numerous working groups that are already established specifically with interested parties around the race to the top features. But it's fair to say there is so much work to do. We are always happy for offers of more help. I think as far as the topics and their areas of interest, I think what we continually need to be provided with, and this might be the right answer, is up-to-date intelligence. So you know, we started on this journey with a level of data, with an input that prompted us to go on this journey. We need to continually understand, you know, what the state of play is in the areas of challenge that we're trying to address. So in your industries, if you can continually you know, update us on things and how they're going, whether you know, your experience on the ground is that things are improving or not so much, that would be massively helpful, as well as participating in any of our working groups. So thank you very much for that question. Okay, next one. Are you working? Oh, that was the CCP one. So the question that Marie-Claude I think answered, I hope answered for this participant was, were we working with CCP equipment providers? And I think Marie-Claude's answered that. But if she hasn't, then please feel free to let us know. Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's just thank you from somebody. So that's nice. Nice to know. We're appreciated, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate your thanks. Thank you very much. Okay, so next question. Will the database of certified companies be accessible via API for assurance that suppliers being input into software can be validated? Ooh, that's a techie question. Marie-Claude, that's one for you.
I knew that would be one for me too. Very good question. So API is actually the how we're going to gather information actually in our system from the CPOs. There is an opportunity that was raised to us by one of our board members actually around looking at APIs back into the industry to allow people to have automatic update from the system. That's something that we haven't built in phase 1 of the project. But when we come to initiating the second phase and define what functionalities the users of the platform would want us to develop to enhance its possibilities, then I think that's one that you might want to raise to us so that we can explore it. It's absolutely feasible from a technological point of view. We just need to look at it in terms of authorization to share people's information, basically. So.
Okay, thanks, Marie-Claude. Okay, so the next one is global markets, and this might be one for you. Global markets checklists have been used for many companies as a protocol to audit their suppliers which are not yet certified. Some of them add more specific requirements of their own protocol. Is it possible in next revisions to have the possibility of add-on requirements that be counted in the final score? So before I hand over to Girardi, this is just exactly the type of feedback that we need to hear through our consultation. So, you know, these are the comments that we've been, you know, curating. We need fundamentally to hear from you with your ideas. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that one. And the consultation is definitely your opportunity to tell us everything that you think. Girardi, that's a really great comment, isn't it?
Thanks. Yeah, and Erica, maybe I will complete what you say. We're looking for evidence-based and fact-based answers and good practices that have demonstrated outcomes and feasible, tangible ideas that you have tested or that you really want us to consider in a very realistic and detailed way. We don't know. The answer is we don't know. That's really all the kind of challenges, and at the same time to see how we can transform them into opportunities that we are looking at in the future of the global markets program. So please answer the public consultation. You will have in each section different options, and you will have also an options to tell us whatever you need to tell us to give your feedback, your practices, your evidence-based results. So we don't know. Please highlight it in the consultation. But this is because we hear so many cases as yours that we are actually completely aware that we need to give a new momentum to the program to answer more the needs of everyone out there through the Global Markets program in terms of building capacity.
Okay, thank you very much. So next one is what can sites do which are being pressurized into having a remote audit by certification bodies due to either lack of available auditors or travel restrictions? Marie-Claude, one for you.
Yes, very important for me that a certified organization understand it is their choice, and the first thing they ought to do is talk to their customers to debate on the best option for them depending on their individual circumstances. You've got different options. We always advocate to explore every opportunities to actually have an audit against a GFSI recognized protocol, which can be fully on-site or hybrid, actually. So part of your audit being carried out remotely and part of your audit being carried out on-site. To support this process during the pandemic, the exemptions that we allowed in March 2020 still apply. So you have 90 days to carry out your full audit, and you can obtain an extension of up to 6 months for your certificates. So that can get you a long way. It's not always enough, and we know that because we see it in the certificate numbers that we get reported on a quarterly basis. And if it isn't enough, then you can discuss with your customers and your management team internally the best options. You can do full remote audit, of course. It's available from from certification bodies and some certification programs. But you can also do desktop assessments if that is sufficient for you and your customers. It has to be based on the risk that you represent, based on your personal circumstances, your individual circumstances. A remote audit is not the only option. It's one of the options you have, I think, is the message. And the people to decide are you, the certified sites, and your customers, really. That would be my recommendation. There's Sophie, our little elf in the background. I will share in our chat box a link to a 3-minute recorded I did where I explain the different steps you can do. Then you can share that with the audience. So if anybody's got needs a very simple explanations of the different options you have. You just take 3 minutes, listen to that. You've got everything you need there.
Okay, well, that was just fantastic. There are still at least 5, 6, I think 7 questions outstanding that I don't believe we have time to answer on this webinar. We are very keen to get your feedback on how this was for you. If this is the sort of information that you want and need to hear about, we're very happy to consider anything that you do. We will take those questions offline, ensure that we have the participants' details, and we will commit to responding to you individually on the outstanding questions. So I think all that is left for us, my fabulous colleagues, and Marie-Claude, myself, to do is to thank you very much indeed for your time, your commitment to everything that it is that we do, and for spending, you know, time out of your very busy days to join us today. Hopefully it was time well spent, and we look forward to doing more of these if that's what it is that our community asks. I'd also like to thank my wonderful CGF colleagues, One CGF, for supporting us. Thank you very much indeed with the technical support. We really do appreciate it. So wherever you are in the world, however early you've got up or however late you stayed up, thank you very much. Please stay safe. Please keep talking to us, and we look forward very much to seeing you again very soon. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.